So anyway, we have 4 freshman legislators tonight going to talk. And our first one is Bernie Sanders, who is a representative from Vermont. And Representative Sanders is, and I'm going to come right out and say this, a socialist. Hey, any socialists in the crowd? Yeah, I think. In view of recent events, that puts him way out in front on the wave of the future, of course. But because he drives a Packard, no, just because Representative Sanders is not technically a Democrat, he was unable to get into the Democratic caucus, which means he does not, among other things, get the secret decoder ring. He was, however, able to get into the Republican caucus. They'll take anybody. And no, they didn't take him either. So he couldn't get into any caucus. So we're talking about a caucus-free individual here, a caucusless person. And there was some speculation that this would make Representative Sanders fairly ineffective as a legislator, but he expects to have a pretty big impact, and he's already, in fact, won a coveted seat on the prestigious House Plumbing Committee's Subcommittee on Urinal Standardization. So there's a sense of fair play at work after all, I think. Representative Sanders, and the way this works is I'm going to pose a question for each of the freshman legislators, and they'll all pretty much disregard it, is my hope. Representative Sanders, our question to you is this. As a socialist, and therefore a person committed to taking the ill-gotten gains of the privileged classes and redistributing them to the oppressed, are you willing to share your reserved capital parking space? Hey, that's it.
As I look out at this vast audience in black and white outfits, the first question that I ask myself is, what in God's name am I doing here? Let me be half serious for a moment and thank the members of the Congress, especially the House, who have been kind enough to welcome somebody who is not a Democrat or not a Republican. And despite the illusion, I have in fact been treated fairly, and I am delighted on that. Some may argue that the Banking Committee is not all that important, but I'm delighted to be on it in any case, given the collapse of the banking system. As somebody who is the first non-Democrat or non-Republican to have been elected to the Congress for many decades, I receive a lot of mail from many people, not only in my own state of Vermont, but from all over the country. As you know, there is some disillusionment with Congress, and people see me perhaps as somebody who is a little different, and they write me letters, and they say, Bernie, what in fact does Congress do? And in the last week, having voted on 4 measures which won after vigorous debate and many one-minute statements, 423 to 0, I do sometimes wonder what Congress does do. And then there is the question that we get in the mail fairly often, which I have learned is of great sensitivity on the Hill, and that is, are these guys really worth $125,000 a year? See, no one is laughing up here, but it is an issue of great sensitivity. Not as serious an issue, I gather, as the issue of parking spaces, and that there are many who would vote against the congressional pay raise but not give up their parking space. They have their priorities correct. Also, people write and they say, is it true that the Congress is wasting tens and tens of billions of dollars on frivolous activities, given the enormous problems facing this country? And people write those letters. So what I have done is, in order to answer the serious question addressed to me tonight, I have had my administrative assistant my legislative director. We have used the congressional research staff, very good people there, to try to deal with this problem for the last several weeks. And that is, in fact, what my office has been doing. And despite all of that research and all of that work, we've been trying to come up with something funny, and we have not been able to do it, as you can see. As the sweat is pouring off of my face, we have not been able to come up with anything that's funny at all. But, as the gentleman who introduced me mentioned, see how far we are away from Washington. I don't even know the gentleman, I'm sorry. Obviously a household name here. But as was mentioned, all of us who are politicians hold the sacred right of totally ignoring the question and answering it in any way we want to. So with that political privilege, my response to the question is this. I am a radical. I am a democratic socialist. I'm proud of it, not ashamed of it. The question was asked of me about sharing a parking space, and that's much too conservative a statement. I'm going to be bolder than that statement. And I'm going to announce tonight, before this illustrious and important audience, that I will do more than share my space. What I intend to do is, at the right moment, at the appropriate moment, to give up my space totally. And I'm going to tell you when I'm going to do this, you see. When the United States Congress begins the process of breaking our dependency on the automobile, when we put billions of dollars into public transportation rather than to highways and roads, when we mandate that automobiles get 60 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, all right. Yes, that's real research and development. 60 miles per gallon, when we have pollution-free transportation. When that happens, I am prepared, unequivocally, to say before you, I will give up my space. Thank you.
The hell with it, keep your space. Just so you know, I'm David Broder. Only the United States Congress would put a socialist on the banking committee. It's the only industry that's already socialized, right?